Welcome to SketchUp. This is the screen that you will see when you first start the app. You should already be logged in, but if you're not, go ahead and log in. And the first thing that you'll want to do is create a new model. Now, you'll want to use the simple inches template. So go ahead and give that a click. It will load itself up into this view. And we'll go ahead and get started with learning the basic movement commands. The first one, and arguably the simplest, is zoom by using scroll. So move your scroll wheel back and forth. Secondly, if you click and drag on your scroll wheel, that will rotate your screen around. Third, if you press shift and click and drag on your scroll wheel, you will be able to pan around your view. To go ahead and get started with constructing your model, I'm going to pull up the PDF on the side here, if I can, so that I can reference it. You don't need to do this necessarily, but if you were creating your own model based off of a different site plan, you would need to. The first step to creating your model is, I'd argue, the place that you'll be placing your 60 by 60 foot site. In that case, this green area with all these supposedly peach trees is what you'll want to model first. Now, according to the scale bar down here, this is 1 inch equals 30 feet, meaning that this green space is 81 feet by 32 feet wide. Now, to model that in SketchUp, there is a list of tools on the left-hand side here. The one that you're looking for is rectangle. It's near the top, right underneath the line tool. Click it once, and then click on the origin of the coordinate plane, and then drag out your mouse. You don't have to click and hold, just drag out. And then what you'll notice down here is that these numbers are changing. These are the dimensions of the surface that you're creating. The cool thing is you don't need to click the box down here, you can just start typing. So, I have my mouse out here, and then 81 feet. So 81 and then apostrophe and then comma to separate the two distances. And then 32 feet. So it does look like it rotated, or I inputted the distances incorrectly. They should have been flipped. But I'll go ahead and rotate it so that you can use the rotate tool. So for rotation, there's 2 arrows pointing at each other a bit down beneath the rectangle tool on the left-hand side again. So go ahead and click that, and when you move your mouse out, you'll have a compass. When you click on the surface that you want to change, you'll be able to rotate around this compass now. So just click it once, and then drag out to a point outside of the box, and then click once, and then you can move the shape along with your mouse. And you'll want to do it 90 degrees. Now that you've done that, you'll want to move it back into the corner just to keep things organized. So select the surface, the move tool, which is right above the rotate command. Select the point in the corner, and select the origin. Next, I'm going to work on the pathways around the site, but I'd like to mention first that this is only one way of modeling the site. Starting from the center out, I feel gives the best accuracy for where you're going to place your model, but another common way is starting from the perimeter and going in. It all depends on what you're looking for in your final model. Also, there is a slight slope across the actual, flat part of the site. It's about 2 to 3 feet, but we won't be modeling that to make it easier on us. We are going to be modeling the slope next to the road, along with going up Thompson Flats, but the actual slope of the site will not be modeled. So to start with the rest of the pathways around the site, let's say you're leaving Carpenter from the southeast corner. This path is 24 feet wide. So I'm going to go ahead and use the rectangle tool again, and then draw 24 feet by, so 24 apostrophe, comma, and then that distance was 81 apostrophe. And then there's that pathway right out of Carpenter. Now for the pathway right in front of Carpenter, I'm going to go ahead and take a rectangle tool again, select the origin, and that's going to be roughly 17 feet wide. So 17 apostrophe, comma, and then 56 feet for that distance between the other two pathways. And once again, I did it incorrectly, so I'm going to Control Z to undo, and then rectangle tool again, and this time do 56 feet first, and then 17 feet. And there's that pathway in front of Carpenter. Now for the west pathway, it's roughly 6 feet wide. So select that pathway down here. Now this is going to be 98 feet. So 98 feet, or apostrophe once again, comma, 6 feet. And there's that west pathway. And finally for the north, it's roughly 11 feet by this distance. So select the endpoint and you'll know how far it is. So this distance I know is 62 because it says it in the measurements box, or in the dimensions box. So when I pull it out to here, I want it to be 62 feet, comma, 11. And there's that pathway going up Thompson Flats. Now to build out the rest of the pathways on this site, so the one going past Carpenter on the west side, and as well as the bridge and the steps down to the road. I'll start with the one going down Carpenter on the west side. So once again, that rectangle tool, select the corner, and that's going to be about 12 feet. 12 feet, comma. This distance can be whatever for now. We'll trim it down later. So I'm going to go ahead and do 50 feet. As well as the pathway going to the Daggy parking garage, which will be about 6 feet wide. So once again, I'm going to do 50 feet as a generic length, and then comma 6 feet for this pathway over here. Now for the bridge on this northwest corner, it's roughly 13 feet, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it 11 for now, and then because it's a bridge, we can expand it later if you want, but we'll keep it 11 for now. So go ahead and select the corner, and then once again, arbitrary 50-foot value, comma, by 11 feet. And there's also a pathway going north here, but I'm going to ignore that for now. Now that we have the main paths laid out, I'm going to go ahead and model Carpenter. So once again, get that rectangle tool, and then from these two corners, which are the bounds of Carpenter, not exactly to this scale, to the map scale, but it gets a rough estimate for the size of Carpenter, or at least the northwest corner. So go ahead and click the endpoint and drag it over to the other one. Now that you have the Carpenter Hall box layout, go ahead and click the extrude tool that's right adjacent to the move tool, or one diagonal to the rotate, and click on the surface that you want to push and pull once. So click it, and then you can move your mouse around, and once again the numbers will change in the distance box. And go ahead and set this to 80 feet for the rough height of Carpenter. It's not exact, but it'll do for now. Once you have Carpenter set in place, you sort of get more of a reference for how the site will turn out. With the rectangle tool, it's going to be 14 inches, comma 9 feet. And then the push and pull tool right next to the move tool. Click on the surface once, 5.5 inches, and enter. With this tread, there are 31, so you'll want to select the whole thing. For reference, selections are common between all softwares. So when you drag from the right side, for example the top right or the bottom right, you'll have a dashed box. This will select everything in its view, even if the object isn't entirely selected. So you'll notice that this surface gets selected even though I don't have the entire surface in the bounding box. Now if you drag from the right side, you'll notice that it's a solid line. This won't select anything that is outside the box and will only select surfaces inside. If I select everything, I can then copy it using Control-C and then Control-V, and it'll automatically place it down, but I have to place the coordinate. So I'm going to select the riser so that it's going up. I'm going to go back to the default mouse tool here at the top and select it once again. Select all of it once again, and then Control-C, Control-V, and once again to the coordinate of the stair. And keep doing this, Control-C, Control-V, corner of the stair, until I have 31. So right now that's 8, this will turn it to 16, and then with this I will have 32. So I can go ahead and delete a tread, or because there is a landing down here, I can take this surface and do the push and pull, and this landing will be about 5 feet. Before we move our stair set back, you'll want to measure out the distance between the bridge and the stairs. So go ahead and take the line tool, which is the first one in the objects bar, and select the endpoint between the bridge and the side path up on the northwest corner. And this is about 30 feet going south. So 30 apostrophe, make sure it's on the edge, so 30 apostrophe enter. And if you click your default selection tool, you can click this line and it'll highlight in blue. Now with your stairs, you'll want to line it up with the end of this line. So go ahead and select everything in your stairs, and then select the move tool along with the endpoint of this top riser. You can then move it to the endpoint of the line that you just created to line up the stairs with the model. Now these stairs might seem a little bit weird because this height is supposed to be 25 feet, and these numbers don't add up to be 25 feet. So we're going to go ahead and change that so that they are accurate. Go ahead and select your stairs, like so, and then you'll want to deselect the surface, so go ahead and click Shift, and then drag to deselect the surface. Also, make sure that no blue is highlighted when you are selecting these surfaces. Now, click on the Scale tool. It's 2 below the Move and 1 below the Rotate, so once, and it will create this bounding box around your stair objects. To make it 25 feet, click on the bottom center green cube down here just once, and then you can move it to be 25 feet. I'm typing 25 feet in the dimensions box, so 25 feet. Enter, and then along with it being 45 or 41 feet from this green box, so 41 feet. And now it's scaled accurately. So for creating the accurate slope of the site, you'll want to be using the rotated rectangle tool. Go ahead and select the endpoint of Carpenter, the pathway of the Carpenter hole, and then the other endpoint of that same pathway, and you'll notice that you can rotate it around that axis. So go ahead and select the endpoint of the tread at the bottom of the steps. And I don't know why I selected again, but you want to do that again on the other side of the stairs. So anywhere along this surface, and then down to the endpoint of the tread. And you'll notice that they aren't filling up the whole space. You don't want them to interact with other objects yet, or interact with the stairs, because otherwise they won't appear. You'll want to scale this to the right size. So use the Scale tool, again right underneath the rotate command, and drag the green box out to the side by selecting the endpoint. And then same for this one by selecting the endpoint. Along with the other slope, use the select the selection tool, select the surface, and then the Scale tool, and drag the green box to the endpoint of the stairs. Now these lines get created, which is what I meant by the slope interacting with the rest of the site. You can delete these if you want, but it doesn't really impact the model at all. Once again, you'll want slope running to the road, so go ahead and do the rotated rectangle tool, the corner of the stairs here, and then the corner of the slope you just made, down to the endpoint of the landing at the bottom, and then do that for both sides. So to create that 3-foot retaining wall, you'll want to select this endpoint down here, and then go out to the edge of your site, which will be 92 feet. So 92 apostrophe, comma, 1 foot, because it's 1 foot wide, and then enter. To create this retaining wall on the south side here of your site, not necessarily needed, but it might be nice to have. So 49 feet, comma, 1 foot. To extrude these surfaces, use the push and pull tool and select one surface, drag it up to 3 feet, and select the other surface and drag it up to 3 feet. And there's your retaining wall. Because we won't be using this surface back here as part of our site, I'm going to estimate the slope of the grassy area. So I'm going to use the rotated rectangle tool again and select the corner of the retaining wall along with the other corner of the retaining wall. And it didn't look like it selected properly, so I'm going to escape, and then once again the endpoint to endpoint, and something that's reasonable, probably, and there's the slope of the hill on that east side. Now to continue with the pathway going up next to Thompson Flats, I'm going to select the rotated rectangle again, and select the corner on the northeast corner of the grassy area with the peach trees, and move it over to the other side of that pathway, and then all the way up to the edge of that surface that you just created for your slope. Next, I'm going to create a few more treads. So out in this open space here, I'm going to write 9 feet by 14 inches. So 9 apostrophe, comma, 14 quotation marks to create that tread. And then push and pull, again 5, or I'll do 6 inches this time, those steps are a bit higher. Copy, so Control C, Control V on the corner there, and do that one more time, so Control V. Now before you move your steps over, go ahead and extrude the bottom so that they meet at the same point. So push and pull tool right next to the move, select the surface to the endpoint there, and to the endpoint. And then with this, select your treads, select the move tool, and then the midpoint of the back of your steps. So this midpoint back here. And then select from the back, you can select the midpoint of this surface to line the steps up with the rest of the path. And there you have it. Before doing anything else, go ahead and file, save as, and save your work. You don't want to lose what you've made so far, otherwise, well, you'd have to redo it. So I'm going to save it as SDC140 site model.